Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. With me on today's show are Paul Puckett, U.S. Army, Karen Wrege with Department of State, Ashley Mahan, General Services Administration, Joe Hamblin with Verizon, Habib Hourani with Okta, and Nicholas Speece with Snowflake. We're going to throw it over to you, Nicholas. We were talking about big programs and how we're rolling them out. How do you all fit into that environment? Give us 30 seconds on what Snowflake is, and then how do you enable this capability?
Yeah, thanks for having me back, Luke. It's always great to see you guys. And this is an awesome panel. It's pretty much everybody that I need in a day-to-day basis. Snowflake is, a couple weeks ago, I would have said it was the first cloud-native data warehouse. But as of the second, we've re-released ourselves as a cloud-native data platform. We added a bunch of phenomenal data sharing capabilities, a private marketplace and exchanges that are available to enhance the collaboration that Habib was talking about. The reason why the panel is so great is because everybody in the room is part of a very important ecosystem. Snowflake has always been integrated with Okta for identity access and management. We still continue that relationship today. In fact, we couldn't do the data sharing in the government that we do without them. And we couldn't do it without Ashley's organization either, working towards that FedRAMP Moderate to bring in data from Paul and Karen and using Joe's network. So Snowflake is a central place for all data all the time, structured, unstructured, and semi-structured. Some great capabilities just came out. We'd like to be the glue where the data lives.
Fantastic, you know, and it is all about the data, right? Once we get into this sort of a autonomous sort of environment here, right, in a hybrid computing type of capability, it's really focused on the data, which is what Zero Trust is all about, correct?
Absolutely. Trying to integrate the gobs of data that it takes, and it really is a massive amount of data, to do that very, very well and to enhance security by things we know about people, not just what they know about themselves. That takes data at scale that really only the cloud and solutions like Snowflake can afford to give you.
100%. Well, we're going to switch over and talk about specific programs. I'm going to throw it over to you, Karen, and give us an example. I know you have many, because you've been doing some quick work over there at the State Department, but give us one example of a program that you've implemented using this technology.
Yeah, I think the best example I can provide is this Defense Export Control and Compliance System. We refer to it as DEX, and it really is a program where we've taken all of these different technologies, including Okta and Tableau and ServiceNow and Azure. So we've done some custom applications in Azure, but then we've really integrated all of it. So Okta is, you know, the authentication provider for all of it, and basically provides that access to folks, both internally and externally, to all of our constituents. And so all the regulatees, I mean, we have about, I don't know, 30,000 right now. We just launched this system, its final phase in February, which is where most of the users reside, because that's where we launched the registration and the licensing component of this. And this has just been a game changer, both for industry, which, you know, it's just easy for them to get into the system, to interact with the system. And then with all of us teleworking, I mean, this has been a game changer for the Department of State, the Directorate itself, because before this, we would not have been able to continue the mission. Absolutely would not have been able to. And because of these cloud technologies and just amazing timing, we were able to actually go and telework and continue to meet the mission. And this is I can't tell you how happy I am that we were able to make that deadline. You know, it was President's Day weekend, and you know, we did it, and it was so exciting to allow. And now we have this data transparency. We're able to, you know, before we would have to go into the office and transfer data over to Customs and Border Protection. Now we just do it on the cloud. We can basically do all of that, you know, from the home office.
Right, right. And instantly and securely. It just warms my heart as a former federal CIO to see all this modern technology being used to enable these great customer experiences. Habib, let me throw it over to you and give us an example of a program that perhaps Okta is working on or has worked on that's a great example of this technology being used to sort of further the mission.
Yeah, so I think Karen did a great job summing up what state's doing, but I think now we're involved in, I want to say 3 or 4 COVID response scenarios, and it's all about delivering the data, right? So we're working with programs that working with all 50 states, multiple federal agencies, and they have huge data aggregation platforms that they're using. And they've got to get that information out. They've got to make sure that people know what the numbers are, hospital bed availability, and delivering that access to that information and making sure that, the state of Virginia sees the state of Virginia's bed availability versus the state of Florida and Maryland, et cetera. So delivering all that information as quickly and efficiently. And what was cool is leveraging the cloud, we were able to deploy this in weeks. I mean, with one of the agency, we literally did the Okta deployment over the weekend.
Right. It literally goes from years and months to months and weeks and days and hours in some cases, right? It's fantastic.
And it's a whole new speed and agility that I think the federal government is now embracing, where that traditional, hey, we've got to step through this a certain way that adds time and complexity. The government's being far more responsive to, hey, no, we have a mission that we need to deliver. Let's get the mission done. And oh, by the way, there's ways to do it that still maintain compliance.
100%. Ashley, speaking of speed and agility and iteration, et cetera, give us an example of a specific program that you all are implementing or have implemented that's really sort of, ticked you up over there in regards to enabling the FedRAMP capabilities.
Sure. FedRAMP, we have a great bird's eye view into agency cloud usage across government. And we've seen agencies now more than ever are moving to the cloud and really using this program. So it's so great to hear Karen's story. It just brings me joy, as well as Habib and the impacts that they're making there. And what we're seeing is during this increased time of remote working, right, we've seen significant surges in the number of authorization packages that have been reused, agency and cloud service provider participants in our training events, and just a huge uptick in our daily meetings and interactions that we have with both industry and agencies. And, cloud technology, and I think all my panelists will agree with me, cloud technology has been a huge enabler of working in this remote environment at this time. And as an example, it might sound really simple, and I think, Luke, you touched on this, but being able to communicate with one another is a critical function during this time of remote work. And the FedRAMP marketplace, we've got multiple cloud products, right, that offer collaboration capabilities that include like chat and crowdsourcing and messaging and video conferencing. And, we've seen just across the board since March, right, a huge uptick, about 1,600 FedRAMP access requests, right, for agencies that want to get access to these security materials and really start the process in using these cloud products. So, we want to continue to build the marketplace. We want to offer a wide range of products, right, to promote remote access, scalability and collaboration. And, we're just really looking forward to supporting the agencies, right, in their IT modernization efforts.
Right place at the right time. Joe, how about over at Verizon? Can you give us an example of a program that you all are working on that's really sort of changed the game in regards to enabling an agency's mission?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, several of the panel members like Karen and Habib had mentioned some great points, sort of set me up, regarding COVID and the rapid response. And, I think COVID really launched, cloud and made it, without cloud infrastructure, I don't think we'd be able to operate as efficiently as we are today. So some things that Verizon has done, we have different customers, civilian side and the DoD side. And the Department of Defense side, they are, like as Paul mentioned, they're I think they're looking sort of more looking forward, and they're moving their whole IT infrastructure out. We've enabled them leveraging our other partners. We've also had dynamically provided more bandwidth. As customers, some customers have been planning to add more network infrastructure, but they didn't need it until now. Now everyone's working remote, so that has driven a lot of the Verizon is particularly positioned. We can dynamically, in a very rapid fashion, in hours, can provide additional bandwidth. On the civilian side of the government, we had a lot of our customers, today in the cloud environment, have moved their CRM, ServiceNow environments into the cloud, be it in Azure or AWS, and that has allowed them to be very dynamic and scale, and that was shown to be very effective, through the COVID response, where it was seamless. They could orchestration, resources were spun up as needed, the network matched it. So I think those are all very, very important aspects and allowed our customers, today to be able to respond efficiently and timely to the COVID emergency.
This is essentially on-demand bandwidth that's available, just like the on-demand computing and cloud computing has really it's a great pairing there to allow a lot of these capabilities to happen very quickly. Paul, let's throw it over to you in regards to a specific program. I know it's early over there. Perhaps it's there or in your prior life. I know you've had a couple of different real key roles, but gives us an example of a program that you have implemented or are starting to implement that's really going to change the way the Army operates.
Yeah, so I mean, while I'm new, the Army is not new to cloud. I think there's probably two really great stories here. One with the COVID response and the dynamic response the United States Army had to bring to bear in both the National Guard as well as the Army Corps of Engineers. We had a massive logistics challenge on our hand, but we also had a challenge of bringing in new data sets because we were essentially having to make decisions in context of information that we didn't necessarily have. And so had that had to rely on our typical acquisition process for compute and storage or a typical requirements process within a contract, we would have not have been able to respond the way that we were able to. And so one of the key players there was our Vantage program, which is a cloud-enabled capability today that is essentially a real-time common operating picture for various feeds of information across our logistics supply chain that we were then able to overlay with key personnel data as well as protective equipment information when we talk about how we're going to respond to specific locations or even for our stand-up of hospitals in specific locations. And so we were able to dynamically scale that infrastructure in order to support those needs in real time. And I think that also is a great parallel to another effort that was able to dynamically scale, which is an effort that my office is bringing to bear that we call C-Army, which is our general purpose cloud environment, because a number of initiatives that needed to start to leverage cloud computing capabilities and its dynamic nature, essentially we're recreating the components of the secure cloud computing architecture. And so during this response, even if with COVID, we were able to onboard the Human Resources Command, as well as the Enterprise Resource Planning modernization effort for the United States Army without skipping a beat.
Super duper focus there on enabling that capability, which is just awesome. Nick, how about you over there at Snowflake? Give us an example of where you're enabling an agency or mission.
Yeah, happy to. So Snowflake, with our new data sharing stuff, one of the largest benefits we brought to bear, and I'll stick with the COVID theme for a moment, is Snowflake joined the COVID Alliance. We're a founding member of that program. We were basically giving the capability to store everything from diagnostic data to abstract case data from Johns Hopkins University and the World Health Organization, but also holding a more close hold data set that is used for researchers to understand and better treat the disease. On our commercial side, fully open side, one of our partners, Star Schema, came out with a COVID-19 data set that is being consumed by state governments all across the US And the important thing with that, and what I love about our new capabilities in the data platform, is that Snowflake is able to share that same single data set in real time with every other cloud and cloud provider in the States. So our state of California, the government was able to share from Microsoft Azure government into commercial AWS West to some other agencies in the state of California that needed that data. There's complete auditability secured by Okta for authentication and single sign-on, but all of that data is in one place with real-time access, no FTPs. It's far more secure than it would be otherwise. So we're very, very excited we were able to help.
It's awesome. I mean, the dream of sort of this fungibility with the data is starting to come true, which is just awesome and super necessary. We're going to roll into priorities. I'm going to start with you, Ashley, and give us the priorities for the upcoming year. We're all dying to know.
Thanks, Luke. So as we talked a little earlier, in 2019, we launched the FedRAMP Ideation Challenge, and that was really to solicit feedback on how can we improve the authorization process and the overall FedRAMP experience for our customers. And really, we heard three main themes, and these themes are continuing. We're continuing to work on these, over in FY20 and going into fiscal year 21. But automation, right? How can we improve more or less manual automation or authorization process, and how can we incorporate automation into the way that we do things here, as well as provide more opportunities to connect with our stakeholders. So increasing our outreach and involvement with our stakeholders, like launching our agency liaison program. And then the third one is, providing further guidance and clarity into the process and the security requirements that are within the FedRAMP baseline. So just to touch briefly on the automation front, we're working very closely with the National Institute of Standards and Technology on something called OSCAL. And what this is we're developing a standard XML and JSON-based language that can be used, right, to develop these security materials. So right now they're in a more or less a Word format, which is very difficult to be read by machines. And so we think that if we can have this standard, develop the standard baseline that these materials are put in, as well as the controls, right, that are within our baselines, that's really going to set that foundation for future automation efforts, for future tools to be created or scripts, right, to help develop some efficiencies with the authorization process. We're also looking to redesign our digital presence, right? We understand this authorization process can be complex, and we want it to be as simple as possible. So we're looking right now at redesigning FedRAMP.gov, pushing the right information out to our stakeholders so they can easily find the resources that they need in order to be successful. And then finally, just one event that we've got coming up, we recently just held our information system security officer training, which was wildly successful. We had over 300 agency participants, which was great, and we have another one scheduled here at the end of this month. And also we have an event for our audit community. We call them third-party assessment organizations. This is the group that is charged with actually doing the independent verification, validation, more or less that audit on these cloud products. And we're planning on an event with them this fall. So for anyone that is interested in collaborating with us, in joining these events, please email us at info@fedramp.gov.
A lot of good stuff going on over there at the FedRAMP program. Well, we're going to take another short break. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on the Federal News Network.